You're listening to Eclectic Musings on audioburger.com with me, Sasha Koo.
St. John was tall and slim, and he had a leg for a ribbleum, and now he got no legs at all. The bow shot away by cannonball. Do-rum-rai and a bottle diddle die, and a whack from a diddle and a do-rum-rai. Do-rum-rai and a bottle diddle die, and a whack from a diddle and a do-rum-rai. Well, were you drunk or were you blind to leave your two fine legs behind, or was it walking upon the sea that took your legs from the ground to the knee? Do-rum-rai and a bottle diddle die, and a whack from a diddle and a do-rum-rai. Do-rum-rai and a bottle diddle die, and a whack from a diddle and a do-rum-rai. I wasn't drunk, I wasn't blind to leave my two fine legs behind. 'Twas a cannonball on the 5th of May that took my two fine legs away. Do-rum-rai and a bottle diddle die, and a whack from a diddle and a do-rum-rai. Do-rum-rai and a bottle diddle die, and a whack from a diddle and a do-rum-rai. And those foreign wars are now be announced. That King of England and that King of France, I'd rather my legs he used to be than the King of Spain and his whole navy. Do-rum-rai and a bottle diddle die and a whack from a diddle and a do-rum-rai. Do-rum-rai and a bottle diddle die and a whack from a diddle and a do-rum-rai. For I was tall and he was slim and I had a leg for a rib with him, but now I've got no legs at all. You can't win a race with a cannonball. Do-rum-rai and a bottle diddle die and a whack from a diddle and a do-rum-rai. Do-rum-rai and a bottle diddle die and a whack from a diddle and a do-rum-rai. And a whack from a diddle and a do-rum-rai. Do-rum-rai and a bottle diddle die and a whack from a diddle and a do-rum-rai. Do-rum-rai and a bottle diddle die and a whack from a diddle and a do-rum-rai. Do-rum-rai and a bottle diddle die and a whack from a diddle and a do-rum-rai. My son John was tall and slim and he had a leg for a rib with him, and now he got no legs at all. The boat shot away by cannonball. Do-rum-rai and a bottle diddle die and a whack from a diddle and a do-rum-rai. Do-rum-rai and a bottle diddle die and a whack from a diddle and a do-rum-rai. Do-rum-rai and a bottle diddle die and a whack from a diddle and a do-rum-rai. Do-rum-rai and a bottle diddle die and a whack from a diddle and a do-rum-rai.
Good evening. You're listening to Eclectic Musings on audioburger.com with me, Sasha Cooper. If you've just joined us, this is episode 3 of season 1 with the linking theme of spiritual paths and choices. And before we get cracking with our wonderful guest, Baz Francis, who's literally travelled all the way down from, what was it? Was it Surrey, you said?
Surrey indeed.
Surrey indeed. He's travelled to Brighton, all the way from Surrey to the studio to be here, so you'll be hearing from more from him later. Just a quick hello to the chat room. So big hello to Johnny Berger, of course, and Pete Ringmaster's in the chat room, and then of course you've got Carry On Karen, nice one, and then of course you've got wonderful Free Spirit in the chat room who's listening in from abroad in America, and then of course you've got Parker who's just joined us in the chat room, and I also know Jack Chandler, one of our regular presenters, is also listening in, so to hello to you, Jack. And what can I say? I mean, Baz Francis is one of these characters who literally is so determined to succeed. It's unbelievable. He is a creative. He's a producer of the band, he's a lead singer, he's a singer-songwriter. In fact, he's a bit of everything. So without any further ado, we're going to introduce you to the wonderful Baz Francis. Baz, welcome to the show.
Hi there, Sasha. It's great to be here. I'm back in B-Town. Great place.
Fantastic. So, just for the listeners who have no idea who you are, give us a little bit of a background about yourself. Where are your roots? Where have you come from? And a little bit about your journey so far, please.
Well, I'm from, as was mentioned earlier, I'm from the tortured streets of Surrey. Very, very tough place, and I've grown up around there and Berkshire, so a really nice area on the outskirts of London. And I got into listening to music when I was 14, and that kind of gave way to me wanting to play music, but I had no musical ability to my knowledge, so the music I was listening to when I fell in love with it was soul music, which I wanted to learn the electric guitar, but through the records I was listening to on Motown, I didn't really have a guitar hero to latch onto and learn from, and it wasn't until I was 15 and I discovered the Manic Street Preachers when everything changed, and I began to really study what I believed to be the path for me, if you will, the musical direction, which is what you have today and will hopefully continue to grow. So that was, I guess, my musical beginnings in my mid-teens, because I'm not counting the choir boy years.
Oh, choir boy years, eh? Ooh, I say. Now, you say choir boy, so I'm getting the impression that you were quite open to different styles of music as a whole.
I guess I was. I mean, when I was in school in my early teens, or just prior to that, I was exposed to soul music through my parents, but also classical, I guess. And when you and my love for soul has grown over the years. My respect for classical music has pretty much remained the same. And along the way, I got into rock, and I get very bored by any musical artists, especially those within the rock medium, who have to really stick to a very certain and definite format, and they never branch out, because the bands I love, like Queen, I mean, you can't really call them a rock band, because one moment they're doing rock, the next minute they're doing opera, the next moment they're doing skiffle. And I like that. I think it stops things from becoming stagnant, and that is what I've always wanted to do. Try new things. Oh, look, that's a new instrument. Let's see what that sounds like. And having people like the Beatles and Queen go before all of us, I think it really did open the door for a lot of people, myself included, to say, well, let's try this. Let's expand the medium which we are in. I'm not saying to the same degree as those aforementioned acts, but let's try something new. Let's go down a slightly different road that someone else may not have been down, and in that eternal pursuit for something new, or as Elton John put it, the perfect song, you're always ambitiously striving forward to try and create something new and to try something new. And that's pretty much where I am today.
That's really good. I mean, all these fantastic bands. I mean, Queen and of the Beatles. I mean, two of my favourite bands. And immediately the chat room has gone mad. Carry On Karen's gone, Queen! Love it! And then the Parker has gone, Amen, brother. So obviously somebody's agreeing with the whole philosophy here. It's absolutely brilliant. And in fact, I've got to admit, just a little observation. It's funny when you mention Queen, there's all these wonderful fusion styles. I mean, would you say they were the main band that started you on the journey?
I actually would attribute them to being that, in part because before I got into the Manic Street Preachers, I was into soul music. And before I got into soul music, the first band that made me want to play the guitar was Queen, because I heard their hits on the radio and I loved them. And it wasn't, and my appreciation for them didn't become this all-consuming thing that it did until a few years later. But the blueprint for what I wanted was definitely set in stone by Bohemian Rhapsody and Brian May's guitar solo in Killer Queen.
Oh, now we're talking.
So I mean, that really did lay the foundation. But I mean, I guess when you hear those songs and you're 12 years old, they're not exactly the best songs to come into as a beginner guitarist. It seems, it doesn't seem very identifiable. And there was, a handful of songs I loved by Queen. But then, like I said, the soul thing and the alt rock thing happened, and I was exposed to a great deal more music. And then I was like, well, it's possible to love 30 songs by an act. And then when I revisited Queen as a middle-aged teenager, my appreciation of them didn't just give me 30 songs I loved. It gave me something closer to the region of 300. And
300.
Well, I've got all their albums, solo stuff, bootlegs. I even met Roger Taylor 2 years ago, and I was doing a gig